Have you ever felt like your brain is just uh, drowning in information? Or maybe that you're not quite tapping into its full potential?
Yeah, like you have all this capacity, but it just isn't quite clicking.
Exactly. If that resonates, then get ready, because this deep dive is definitely for you.
Mm-hmm.
Today, we're unpacking a brand new book, Hyper Efficient. Optimize Your Brain to Transform the Way You Work. It's by Mithu Storoni, who's both a neuroscientist and an ophthalmic surgeon.
And what's truly fascinating about Storoni's work is how, well, incredibly practical it is.
Right.
She offers this fresh framework for understanding your brain's different states, almost like a car's gears.
Gears, okay.
And our mission today is really to help you understand how to strategically shift between these gears. The idea is to transform you into what she calls a brain athlete.
A brain athlete, I like that.
So you can work with, both higher quality and hopefully more joy.
And what's striking, I think, is how these insights on how we should work, well, they completely flip the traditional assembly line, thinking about productivity on its head.
Totally. It's not about grinding harder. It's about working smarter, really getting in sync with your brain's natural design.
So let's start there. This idea of gears.
That's right. We often assume our brains are like, I don't know, a simple light bulb with a fixed output.
Yeah, on or off.
But that's just far from the truth. Just like a car shifts gears for different speeds, or maybe a vacuum cleaner adjusts its power.
Right, for different surfaces.
Exactly. Our brains naturally shift through various states of attention and focus.
Now, some listeners might already be familiar with other brain frameworks, like the default mode network or the central executive network.
Or even things like System 1 and System 2 thinking, divergent, convergent.
Right, or flow state, stress versus relaxation.
All those exist. But Storoni's framework builds on this, offering a new, highly actionable perspective. She categorizes brain states into 3 distinct gears, and it's all based on how we use our attention.
Okay, 3 gears. What are they?
She calls them Gear 1, Gear 2, and Gear 3. So Gear 1 is your unfocused rest state.
Unfocused rest, like daydreaming.
Exactly. Think lazy lounging, daydreaming, just no particular focus, no attention to detail. And this is important, the state is actually crucial.
How so?
It helps clear brain waste, prepares you for creative thought later on. It's essentially when you are simply unwilling to focus.
Okay, unwilling. Got it. So that's gear 1. What's next?
Then we have Gear 2, which she calls the hyper-efficient work state.
Ah, this sounds like the goal.
This is where truly focused attention happens, making it ideal for intellectual work, reading, analyzing, deep thinking, that sort of thing.
Like zeroing in.
Yeah, imagine focusing a camera on one specific point, blurring out everything else in the background. This is when you are actively focusing your attention. This is our prime target for productive work.
Makes sense. And the 3rd gear.
And finally, Gear 3, the overwhelmed, high-stress state.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, this is basically a fight-or-flight mode. Your brain is hijacked by urgency, intense external stimuli, or just immense pressure.
Can you give an example?
Sure, picture an emergency doctor in a critical situation, or maybe an athlete mid-competition in a really high-stakes moment.
Right, intense pressure.
In this state, you are unable to focus properly because of all this overwhelming external interference.
And the crucial point about gear 3, I gather it's not good.
No, it's really problematic. It actively leads to errors, misunderstandings, rash decisions. What's more, it literally wears down your brain.
Wears it down.
Yeah, it requires significant time back in Gear 1, or even deep sleep just to recover.
Wow, okay.
So the goal becomes crystal clear. Maximize your time in Gear 2 for productive work. Definitely leverage Gear 1 for that essential rest.
And crucially.
And critically, minimize your exposure to Gear 3 as much as humanly possible.
Okay, that framework is clear. But how do you even know what gear you're in at any given moment?
Well, Storoni provides a really quick self-assessment for that. It's quite simple.
Yep.
You just ask yourself, can you hold your focus well?
Right.
The answer is yes, you're likely in Gear 2.
Simple enough. What if it's no?
If it's no, then you ask a follow-up. How sensitive are you to distractors? And how easily can you daydream?
Yeah. Okay.
If you're not very sensitive to distractions and you can daydream pretty easily, that points to Gear 1.
The rest still.
Exactly. But if you're too sensitive to distractors, like everything pulls your attention and you find it impossible to daydream, you're probably stuck in Gear 3.
The overwhelmed state.
Got it.
That's actually quite a useful little check.
It is.
So we've identified Gear 2 as our work sweet spot, but you mentioned Storoni takes it a step further.
Yes. She reveals that even within this hyper-efficient state, there are 3 distinct subzones.
Oh, interesting. More new ones.
Exactly. First up is low energy gear 2. This is quite close to gear 1. Your attention might drift a little, but it snaps back quickly.
Okay.
What's fascinating here is that this state, this slightly drifty state, is actually best for connecting disparate ideas, for having those sudden aha creative breakthroughs.
Really? So not deep, intense focus for creativity.
Not always for the breakthrough moment. If you're in a creative field, this low energy gear 2 is often where you want to spend some quality time.
Low energy gear 2. What's next?
Then there's core gear 2. This is a state of highly focused, undisturbed attention.
Like tunnel vision almost.
Kind of. Neither internal thoughts nor external stimuli can easily pull you away. This zone is ideal for complex, non-creative, pure output tasks.
Like what?
Deep analytical work, maybe coding, proofreading complex documents. It's probably the closest most of us get to that classic flow state.
Okay, core gear 2. And the third subzone.
And finally, high energy gear 2. In this zone, you have complete control over your attention, yet you're also highly sensitive to new, relevant information.
So focused but open.
Precisely. It's a state characterized by passion, curiosity, active exploration. You're scanning for interesting things, keenly grasping details you might usually miss. It's perfect for complex reasoning and for truly absorbing new knowledge.
High energy gear 2 for learning and reasoning. Core gear 2 for focused output. Low energy gear 2 for creative connections. That's a really useful breakdown.
It is. And one of the biggest advantages of Storoni's framework is just how actionable it is. You can actively shift gears.
We can control it.
To a large extent, yes. Although the ease of shifting can vary between people. For example, she notes that individuals with ADHD often find everyday things a bit boring, easily distracted.
Spending more time in gear 1.
Exactly. They might need a stronger stimulus to shift into gear 2, but once they're there, they can perform exceptionally well, often in that high energy state.
Interesting.
Others might be the opposite, maybe overly sensitive to stimuli, and they can easily jump past gear 2 straight into gear 3.
Right, into overwhelm.
Yeah. But thankfully, there are universal techniques to help all of us consciously shift gears.
Okay, let's hear them. Where do we start?
Well, we can start with your external environment. Lighting, for instance.
Light. How does that work?
Blue or cool-toned light actually helps you shift up, increases alertness and focus.
So, good for the office, maybe.
Could be. On the flip side, red, warm, or soft light helps you relax and shift down. That's great for enhancing creativity in that low-energy gear 2 state, or just winding down into gear 1.
Makes sense. What about sound?
Sound also plays a role. Higher frequency, faster tempo, louder volume, those tend to shift you up.
Like morning news.
Exactly. Think about listening to fast-paced morning news to quickly get alert. Conversely, soothing music, like what you'd hear in a spa, that helps you shift down.
Relaxing music.
Yeah. But a crucial point for work, though. Try to avoid music with lyrics.
Why is that?
Lyrics can hijack your attention, pull you out of gear 2. This is probably why some people find working in a quiet coffee shop beneficial. That consistent, non-intrusive background hum can help maintain gear 2 without distracting you.
The coffee shop effect. Okay, environment is one lever. What else?
Your body is another incredibly powerful tool for gear shifting.
How so?
Any form of physical activity can shift you up. More intensity, longer duration, bigger effect.
So exercise is good for focus.
Absolutely. This is why exercise is often so beneficial for individuals with ADHD. Even just a half-hour workout can provide over 30 minutes of this useful, excited state afterward.
Wow. Any quick tricks?
Well, get this. Research shows that squeezing a stress ball for about 18 seconds, then relaxing for a minute, can actually improve attention.
Really?
Yeah. So even just clenching your fist firmly for a bit can help you shift up into gear 2.
Okay, and shifting down using the body.
Muscle relaxation is key. That's why techniques like the body scan and NSDR, non-sleep deep rest, are so effective. Consciously relaxing your muscles shifts you down.
And breathing. People always talk about breathing for calm.
Storoni recommends a specific pattern. A 5-second inhale, followed by a 5-second exhale. That 10-second cycle is really effective for downshifting.
5 ins, 5 out. Simple.
And for a rapid shift up in the morning, a sudden change in body temperature.
Like a cold shower.
A quick, cold, or even hot shower can instantly move you from that groggy gear 1 right into gear 2. Bit of a shock to the system.
I'll bet. Okay, environment, body, anything else?
Yes. Perhaps the most convenient way to shift gears, something you can do anywhere, anytime. Use your eyes.
My eyes. How?
Staring intently at a small specific point can immediately pull you into gear 2 no matter where you were before.
Really? Just staring.
Yeah, think of tennis players. They're often taught to focus on a tiny seam on the ball, not the whole ball. It helps calm anxiety and lock them into gear 2 during a match.
Fascinating. So narrowing focus shifts you up. What about down?
The opposite, widen your gaze or deliberately unfocus your eyes. There's even research suggesting that lifting your eyebrows, sort of widening your eyes, can increase creativity, nudging you into low energy gear 2.
Wow.
Frowning, on the other hand, tends to narrow focus and can reduce creativity.
So posture and expression matter.
They do. And the most direct way to shift from gear 2 to gear 1 for rest, just briefly close your eyes. Instant downshift.
Okay, that's easy enough.
And one more related to movement. Walking or just strolling, it's an excellent way to enter that low energy gear 2 for creativity.
Why walking?
Well, the physical movement provides just enough alertness to keep you out of gear 1, but your attention isn't rigidly fixed, and it's not strenuous enough to push you into gear 3 stress. It's a kind of gentle alertness.
Perfect for letting ideas percolate. I have to ask about the classic gear shifter.
Ah, yes. Coffee or any caffeinated drink.
Where does that fit in?
Well, it's a classic shifter, all right. If you're in a sluggish gear 1 state, coffee can definitely boost you towards gear 2. But here's the catch. If you're already in a focus gear 2, adding more caffeine might actually push you past it, straight into gear 3 territory, making it harder to concentrate.
Jittery and overwhelmed.
Exactly. And definitely avoid coffee if you're trying to shift into gear 1 for rest or sleep. Kind of obvious, but worth saying.
Right. So this is a very clear system then. Gear 2 is the workhorse state, efficient, healthy.
Yep. Low energy gear 2 for creative tasks, high energy gear 2 for learning and complex reasoning.
Gear 1 for rest and recovery.
Absolutely essential. And if you find yourself creeping into gear 3,
Hit the brakes. Shift down immediately.
exactly. Because stress leads to errors and is just plain bad for your brain long term. This whole idea of shifting gears, it brings us to a really critical point about our brain's natural rhythms.
This is where things get really interesting, I think, because it challenges so much of how we think about work today.
It really does. Storoni argues quite compellingly that our brains are not designed for constant, steady output, not like an industrial assembly line.
The factory model.
Precisely. That idea of a uniform pace was largely a product of the Industrial Revolution. Thinkers like Frederick Taylor, engineers like Henry Ford, they optimized for quantity and consistent handoffs.
Because that worked for making things.
Exactly. Taylor observed factory workers saw they were less efficient if left to their own rhythms compared to everyone following a standardized pace. Ford took that further with the assembly line, forcing everyone to work at the same speed.
Revolutionary for production.
Absolutely. Eliminated waste, waiting times. Great for product quantity, but for intellectual work, where quality is paramount, our brains just don't operate that way.
Yeah, that makes intuitive sense. The quality of your insight or your analysis matters way more than just the sheer volume of hours you put in.
Right. High-level brain work is deeply personal. It depends on individual creativity, insight. It's not a relay race where one person writes a sentence and the next person picks it up immediately.
So it stands to reason we should try to align with our brain's natural rhythm, not a factory rhythm.
And what is that natural rhythm? Well, anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer tribes have found their work patterns look nothing like an assembly line.
How'd they work?
Most of their labor is actually pretty low intensity, foraging near their homes, walking, stopping. Quite relaxed, really. Only when necessary, like tracking large prey, do they engage in these intense bursts of high-intensity work. And after that, they might need days of rest to recover.
So mostly chill, occasional burst.
You got it. This pattern is called a power law distribution. If you plotted it, you'd see a steep curve. Most activity is low intensity, and high intensity activity is rare.
And these populations? They're healthier.
Often show significantly better physical and mental health than modern urban workers, yeah. It seems our genes kind of remember this natural rhythm, mostly relaxed activity with occasional intense bursts.
It's not just hunter-gatherers, right?
No, even babies behave this way. Short bursts of alertness, followed by frequent long rests. And fascinatingly, even intellectual giants throughout history seem to have operated this way.
Like who?
Researchers studied the correspondence of Darwin, Freud, Einstein.
Heavy hitters.
Right? They weren't like modern office workers, firing off replies immediately. While many replies were quick, some letters took a very, very long time, indicating periods of deep, focused thought interspersed with well, not responding immediately. Their work patterns also followed a power law distribution.
Okay, so if that's our natural healthy rhythm,
Hmm.
how do we apply it to modern life?
Mm.
We can't just work intensely for a day and then rest for 3 days.
True. Storoni suggests aligning with a shorter cycle, our natural 90-minute ultradian rhythm. You might know these from sleep cycles.
The 90-minute cycles during sleep, yeah.
She suggests structuring our work periods around that, typically 60 to 90 minutes long, with strategic breaks in between.
And within that 90 minutes, is there a pattern too?
Yes, she advises mirroring that power law within the cycle itself. Allocate the first 20 minutes or so to your absolute hardest task. That's when you utilize high-energy gear too.
Hit the tough stuff first.
Exactly. Then, for the next 40 to 70 minutes, shift down a bit. Tackle easier, slower tasks, settling into low-energy gear too.
Okay.
And after that 60-90-minute block, take a proper 10-minute break before starting the next cycle. This honors your brain's natural ebbs and flows of energy and focus within that shorter time frame.
That makes a lot of sense. It acknowledges that you can't maintain peak intensity for 90 minutes straight.
You really can't. And our brains know this. They naturally slow down after prolonged high-intensity work. It's a built-in compensation mechanism, basically forcing us to rest.
And trying to push through that is counterproductive.
Hugely. Storoni points out that even masters like Darwin rarely did more than about 4 hours of that really deep, focused work daily. Exceeding that limit seems to prevent full recovery and just leads to burnout.
4 hours of deep work, that's less than many people try to do.
Much less, which underscores the importance of strategic rest.
So how should we rest? Just stop working?
It depends. If you're tired but generally not worried or stressed about work, simply shifting to gear 1 is enough. Do some non-focused activities, light reading, watch a short, non-demanding video. The key is no intense focus.
Okay. But what if you're tired and stressed? Stopping might make you worry more.
Right. In that case, you need more active brain-shifting techniques first. Use things like exercise, maybe play a quick game, meditate something to release that worry before you can truly enter gear 1 and rest effectively.
Address the stress first, then rest.
Exactly. And remember the rule. No continuous work should exceed 90 minutes. And don't underestimate the power of a short nap. 15 to 20 minutes can provide surprisingly quick recovery.
Okay, this rhythm and rest piece is huge. Let's talk about creativity and learning because this brain athlete idea seems particularly relevant there.
Absolutely. First off, let's reiterate. Gear 3, that high-stress, overwhelmed state, is the absolute enemy of creativity.
Kills it dead.
Pretty much. When your mind is hijacked by pressure or threat, there's just no room for original thought to emerge.
So where does creativity happen in this model?
Well, gear 1, that unfocused rest state, acts as a crucial clearing state. It allows ideas to bubble up, especially useful maybe first thing in the morning or last thing at night when you're relaxed.
Okay, clearing the ground.
But for that spontaneous creativity, the aha moments, low-energy gear 2 is often the sweet spot.
The slightly drifty focus again.
Exactly. Your attention drifts a bit, makes connections, but stays alert enough for those insights to just pop up. This is why great ideas often come to you while you're walking, doing chores, taking a shower.
Or even, as you mentioned, during kind of boring meetings.
Huh. Yes, surprisingly often. I think many people can relate to that. You have to pay some attention, but not too much. It's that perfect sweet spot of semi-distracted focus where different parts of your brain can connect unexpectedly.
I can definitely attest to that one. Some of my most, let's say, interesting ideas have surfaced during long, dull presentations.
See? It works. Then there's high-energy gear 2, which is important for active creativity.
How is that different?
This is about active divergent thinking, brainstorming, reasoning through possibilities, like how some advanced AI models are designed for exploring many options. The more elements you can hold and manipulate in your mind, the more novel connections you can forge. It's about both expanding your scope and then focusing when needed for synthesis.
So different types of creativity thrive in different gear zones.
Precisely. And your environment matters here too. Physical freedom, not being stuck in a rigid posture, and open spaces like rooms with high ceilings or being outdoors can literally help expand your thinking.
Interesting. What about when creativity gets stressful, like facing a block or harsh criticism?
That can easily push you into gear 3. Storoni's advice is immediate. Stop. Don't push through the stress. Shift gears. Use relaxation techniques. Maybe play a simple game, listen to a joke, anything to break the stress cycle before trying to re-engage creatively.
It's like hitting an escape button.
Kind of, yeah. A strategic retreat to reset. She uses the creative process of Nobel laureate Kazuo Ishiguro as a great example.
Oh, the author of The Remains of the Day.
That's the one. He started with intense preparation, high energy gear 2, doing deep research on British servants, historical context, all of that.
Phase 1, research.
Right. Then came a crucial incubation phase, a full year where he consciously did not actively work on the novel.
A whole year. Doing what?
Letting ideas surface naturally during social activities, everyday life. He was mostly in a low energy gear 2 or even gear 1 state during this time, just letting things percolate.
Wow, that takes discipline.
It does. And only after that year did he move into the intense writing phase. 4 weeks of focused high-energy work, high-energy gear 2 again, for the illumination and verification stage.
Writing furiously.
Yeah, writing, testing ideas, refining. The key takeaway is that the doing nothing part, that incubation year, was absolutely crucial for his high-level creative output.
So we shouldn't feel guilty about downtime.
Definitely not. That slacking or socializing time might actually be a critical part of the brain athlete's training regimen.
Okay, that's creativity. What about learning? How do we learn like a brain athlete?
Learning also really benefits from gear 2, particularly high-energy gear 2. Excitement is key.
Excitement.
Yeah, you need that element of curiosity and engagement to stay in the optimal learning zone. Storoni mentions the ideal blend for new content is often described as familiar plus unexpected. Enough familiarity to grasp it, but enough novelty, she quotes a figure around 15.87% new to keep you hooked.
The 15% rule. Interesting.
This is why a good teacher often acts almost like a performer. They need to be engaging, maybe use drama, emotional connection, even unique smells, anything to capture attention and get students into that high energy gear 2 state, which enhances memory formation.
Making learning stimulating.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Storoni also suggests some unique learning rituals based on neuroscience.
Okay.
All right, get this. 15 minutes before a learning session, she suggests doing 2 short 3-minute sprints, like actual running sprints.
Sprints away.
This boosts lactate in the brain. Lactate is often seen as waste, but she says it actually provides crucial energy for high-intensity brain work and can increase learning speed by up to 20%.
Wow, okay. Sprint before studying. What about after?
After the learning session, take 15 to 30 minutes for a period of calm internal focus, like a gentle walk. This helps digest the information.
Consolidation time.
Right. And then here's another surprising one. After that calm period, watch a small, stimulating video, something novel or emotionally engaging.
A video. Doesn't that interfere?
Apparently not. Experiments show this can actually lead to higher scores on subsequent tests related to the learned material. It seems to help lock in the memories.
That is counterintuitive.
Isn't it? And finally, about 4 hours later, do about 30 minutes of moderate exercise, like jogging or a fast walk. This seems to further enhance long-term memory and learning.
So learning involves sprints, walks, videos, and more walks.
The big takeaway seems to be true brain athletes need to move their bodies, not just sit passively.
This whole approach seems to lead towards achieving that state of flow, driven by intrinsic motivation, right? The ultimate hyper-efficient state.
Exactly. Storoni uses this great visual. Don't think of your work as a flat, boring assembly line. Instead, picture it as a continuous series of small mountains to conquer.
Okay, mountains.
Each climb represents a small challenge. The process of learning something new, creating something, solving a problem,
Right.
and critically, reaching each summit, completing that small challenge, gives you immediate pleasure, a little dopamine hit, a reward.
The reward for the effort.
Yes. And that reward is what drives you down the other side of that mini mountain, making you eager and motivated for the next climb. This continuous challenge reward loop is the absolute key to achieving and sustaining flow.
So break big tasks down.
Break them down into small, immediate challenges. Each one needs to provide a mini victory upon completion. It's all about generating that feeling of progress.
Like the baby kicking the mobile example you mentioned earlier.
Precisely. That simple act of influencing the external world, seeing the mobile move because they kicked it, is a huge intrinsic reward. It makes them want to keep doing the effort. It connects effort directly to pleasure.
So it's not about forcing yourself to persevere through misery.
No, it's about engineering the work so you find the joy in the process itself, in the effort and the small wins along the way. That's what makes you truly hyper-efficient sustainably.
That internal drive is powerful. But what about external goals? Deadlines, big projects. They still exist.
Of course, intrinsic drive is incredibly powerful, but Storoni acknowledges that external goals, what you might call big picture utilitarianism, are still important for serious long-term endeavors.
So how do we manage the pressure of those external goals without tipping into gear 3?
The key lies in how you frame those goals and the pressure associated with them. Is it a challenge or is it a threat?
Challenge versus threat. What's the difference?
A challenge mindset means you're aiming to win, to achieve something positive. A threat mindset means you're primarily aiming to avoid losing, to prevent a negative outcome.
And that framing makes a difference to performance.
A profound difference. Facing a threat like needing to make a penalty kick where a miss means your team immediately loses the championship drastically reduces performance.
Stress takes over.
Exactly. Storoni shares these striking World Cup shootout statistics. Teams scoring to win the shootout, a challenge, a miss isn't immediately fatal, had a 92% success rate.
Wow, 92%.
But teams shooting where a miss meant immediate loss, a threat, their success rate plummeted to only 62%.
That's a huge drop.
It is. Facing a threat is far more stressful, reliably pushes you into gear 3, and impairs performance. Whereas framing something as a challenge, even if difficult, can push you into high-energy gear 2, leading to peak performance.
So how do we cultivate that challenge mindset, especially when the stakes feel high?
Focus on what you can control, break the task down, focus on the immediate step, build confidence by actively acknowledging what you already know, what skills you have, what you've accomplished before.
Remind yourself of your capabilities.
Yes. Athletes often use small pre-performance rituals, not for superstition, but to create a sense of control and shift into that challenge state. And for those in leadership roles, simply providing a low-entropy stage, reducing unnecessary external uncertainty, giving clear goals can significantly help others stay in gear 2 and perform better.
Reduce the chaos. Focus the challenge.
Yeah, that's the idea.
This has been incredibly insightful. It really paints a picture of our brains not as machines to be pushed harder, but as these amazing biological systems we need to work with.
Absolutely. Our brains are carbon-based wonders, not silicon chips. They're affected by emotions, they have unstable energy inputs depending on sleep and food, and they absolutely require these strategic gear shifts and rest. But they're also the most incredible devices in the known universe. Far more energy efficient than any supercomputer or large language model, capable of sparking the most unexpected creative ideas out of seemingly nowhere.
So understanding and tuning your brain, this miracle of nature.
It's absolutely worth the effort. It's about unlocking not just efficiency, but quality, creativity, and even joy in what we do.
A powerful message. So as we wrap up, maybe a final thought for our listeners to take away.
Well, maybe think about this. What one small, actionable gear shift we talked about might you try in your daily routine starting tomorrow?
And perhaps even more provocatively,
Yeah.
what currently unproductive activity in your life, maybe that quiet moment staring out the window, that leisurely walk, or even some unstructured daydreaming, might actually be a crucial, non-negotiable part of your training to become a true brain athlete?